They were 90 days from collapse, 90 days from total extinction. The world thought it was over. Investors whispered the funeral date. Competitors prepared the final blow. Employees feared the worst. Quietly, Apple was bleeding millions daily, and nobody believed in comeback. But here is the twist. The company that almost died would later dominate the planet. It would change how you listen, how you talk, how you work, how you live. But first, it had to fall back in 1997. Apple was a broken machine. Products confused the customers badly. Too many models, zero direction. Money draining faster every quarter. Leadership fractured without clear vision. Market share shrinking dangerously fast. Wall Street had written the obituary. And here is the brutal truth. Success makes companies comfortable. Comfort makes them careless. Carelessness kills momentum. Momentum once lost is expensive. Apple forgot who they were. They chased trends without identity. They stopped thinking, insanely different. Steve Jobs had been fired. Yes, fired from his own creation. The visionary was pushed aside. Boardroom politics replaced bold vision. Without strong discipline, chaos spreads. Without focus, creativity becomes noise. Apple was drifting in darkness, almost invisible in tech war. Imagine building your dream, then watching others control it. Imagine your name erased from the company you started. That pain burns deeper than failure. But pain also creates discipline. And discipline builds unbreakable leaders. This is where everything shifts, while Apple struggled publicly. Jobs built himself privately. He founded Next with obsession. He bought a small studio. That studio became Pixar later. He learned patience through rejection. He learned structure through loss. He sharpened his strategic instincts. Failure became his training ground. Silence became his classroom. Humiliation became his fuel. And most people never see this. They only see the comeback. They never study the suffering. They never analyze the discipline. They only celebrate the spotlight. Meanwhile, Apple was collapsing faster, inventory piling inside warehouses, software outdated and unstable, Microsoft dominating the battlefield, developers abandoning the platform quickly, media calling it a relic. The brand, once revolutionary, now looked tired and confused. 90 days of cash left. That was the countdown. 3 months before bankruptcy, 3 months before history erased them. Employees updated resumes secretly. Suppliers demanded faster payments. Fear filled every meeting room. Hope felt almost delusional. And then the impossible happened. Apple bought Next unexpectedly, which meant bringing Jobs back, not as founder, but as advisor first. Quiet move, strategic move. Most underestimated that decision. Few understood the magnitude. This was not emotional return. This was calculated reconstruction. Jobs walked into chaos calmly. He observed before speaking loudly. He studied every broken department. He asked one brutal question: why do we exist? Silence filled the room. Because when purpose disappears, revenue follows immediately. Customers feel confusion instantly. Teams lose direction rapidly. Apple did not need more products. Apple needed ruthless focus, discipline over ego, clarity over complexity. Jobs cut 70% projects, 70% overnight. People were shocked, some angry, some terrified. But discipline requires hard cuts. Great companies are not crowded. They are focused, laser, focused on excellence. He reduced product lines dramatically, from chaos to 4 quadrants: consumer desktop, consumer portable, professional desktop, professional portable, nothing more, nothing less. Simplicity became survival strategy. This decision saved oxygen. Energy redirected to innovation. Engineers now had clear targets. Marketing had coherent message. Customers finally understood offerings. Confusion slowly turned into curiosity. Curiosity slowly turned into belief. Belief slowly turned into loyalty. And here is the lesson. When everything feels overwhelming, you do not add more. You subtract relentlessly. Discipline is subtraction. Discipline is saying no. Discipline is protecting focus. Even when ego screams yes, but the real test was still coming, because cutting costs is survival. Creating magic is resurrection, and resurrection demands courage. Resurrection never begins with applause. It begins with uncomfortable decisions, with sleepless nights and doubt, with pressure that breaks average minds. Apple was still fragile. One mistake could end everything. Investors were watching aggressively. Media waited for public failure. Jobs knew something critical. Survival was not enough. They needed emotional connection, not just better computers. They needed desire. They needed identity. They needed something unforgettable, something dangerously different. So he obsessed over design, not as decoration, but as philosophy. He believed people feel products before they understand specifications. He walked through prototypes silently, touching surfaces, adjusting curves, demanding impossible precision repeatedly. Engineers were exhausted constantly. But greatness is not comfortable. Greatness is disciplined obsession. The first breakthrough was colorful. The iMac looked alien, bright, translucent, unapologetically bold. While competitors built gray boxes, Apple built personality. And here is the magic. When you stand out visibly, you attract attention instantly. Critics laughed at first. Too playful, too risky. But customers lined up anyway, because courage is magnetic and mediocrity is invisible. Sales began climbing slowly, not explosive, not viral, but steady, disciplined growth. Momentum returned quietly, confidence rebuilt internally. Teams started believing again. Belief changes body language, belief changes execution speed. But Jobs was not satisfied. He saw a bigger battlefield: music industry drowning in piracy, people downloading chaotic files, MP3 players complicated and ugly, opportunity hidden inside disorder. He asked another brutal question: what if we simplify music? That question changed history. The iPod was born. 1,000 songs in pocket, simple wheel, intuitive navigation, clean white design, minimalistic. It felt futuristic yet friendly. Again, critics doubted longevity. Again, customers proved them wrong. Here is the pattern. Apple did not chase trends. They created standards. They disciplined the experience. Hardware, software, ecosystem connected. When you control experience, you control loyalty deeply. Loyalty builds empires silently. Revenue exploded dramatically. Stock price recovered aggressively. The same analysts who mocked now praised visionary leadership. But remember this carefully. The comeback started in darkness, in fear and uncertainty, not in celebration. And then came disruption, a device nobody expected, a phone without keyboard, a screen you could touch. Industry leaders laughed publicly. They felt untouchable, invincible, but complacency blinds giants and discipline empowers challengers. The iPhone launched boldly, not perfect but revolutionary. Internet in your hand, apps transforming daily behavior. Competitors reacted too slowly, underestimated the shift entirely. Within years, entire industries were rewritten permanently. Apple became symbol of innovation, from near bankruptcy to dominance, from 90 days left to trillion-dollar valuation. But here is uncomfortable truth. The fall was necessary. The firing was necessary. The humiliation was necessary. Without losing control, Jobs would never evolve. Without exile, no Pixar. Without Pixar, no maturity. Without maturity, no discipline. Without discipline, no focus. Without focus, no iMac. Without iMac, no iPhone. Most people quit during exile. Most companies hide during crisis. But winners rebuild strategically. They audit their weaknesses brutally. They remove distractions mercilessly. They protect vision aggressively. They commit long-term relentlessly. They execute daily consistently. If Apple can almost die and return stronger than ever, what excuse do you have when facing temporary setbacks? Your failures are feedback. Your rejection is redirection. Your crisis is construction. If you choose discipline, because discipline is not punishment, it is alignment with purpose. It is waking up early when motivation feels absent. It is cutting distractions. When comfort feels inviting, it is focusing deeply. When chaos screams loudly, Apple teaches one brutal lesson. Falling is not fatal. Staying down is fatal. Blaming others is fatal. Ignoring reality is fatal. Avoiding hard decisions is fatal. But disciplined reinvention is unstoppable. Some of you feel behind. Some feel underestimated. Some feel replaced, forgotten. Good pressure creates diamonds. Rejection creates hunger. Hunger creates discipline. Discipline creates dominance. Remember those 90 days, that countdown to bankruptcy, that silent panic inside offices. Nobody believed in miracle except a disciplined visionary who simplified instead of expanded, focused instead of panicked, built instead of complained. And here is your mirror. Where are you overcomplicating? Where are you avoiding cuts? Where are you protecting ego instead of protecting mission? Where are you comfortable instead of being courageous? Answer honestly, because your comeback will not start with motivation. It will start with structure, with painful evaluation, with strategic elimination, with disciplined repetition, daily boring consistency. Until momentum returns, Apple is not special. They are disciplined. And discipline compounds, just like interest, just like habits, just like skills, just like reputation. Daily small actions multiply. Today you feel invisible, tomorrow you can dominate, but only if you commit, when nobody applauds, when results are delayed, when doubt whispers loudly, when comfort tempts heavily. Choose discipline anyway. The world remembers champions, but history studies resilience. And resilience is trained in moments nobody films, in rooms nobody claps, In seasons nobody supports, that is where power grows. That is where legends rebuild. Apple almost disappeared. Now it shapes global culture. Your setback is not final. Unless you surrender early, stand up, simplify, focus, execute relentlessly. Your 90 days start now.